Hi everyone. So I just wanted to come on here really quick. Um, I don't know if anybody remembers my very first video. Probably not. I don't have that many people watching these, but that's okay. So my first video, I talked about the 5-4-3-2-1 technique to help with panic attacks and anxiety, and basically just talked about the fact that it is a grounding technique. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up again today is just because I have been doing a lot of trauma work lately. And as we all know, trauma can come from a variety of experiences and events that we have either, again, experienced ourselves or that we have witnessed. Or, I think that people don't also understand that it can also come from hearing about experiences. And yes, that is a lot different, but there are a lot of people who work with veterans at the VA, or even those that work with doctors, nurses, and in the ER, those that work in, again, trauma wards, or EMS, police officers, firefighters, again, things that they're seeing, hearing on a daily basis, and the effects that this can have on them. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up today is that the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique is actually something that can be utilized not just when somebody's having a panic attack or when you are feeling some increased anxiety, but it can also be used when you are in a situation where you have been triggered um, by whatever it may be. And it can be triggered by your own thought. You could be triggered by a sound. You could be triggered by someone's voice or a smell. Sometimes you're triggered by, a date also on the calendar. Somebody could just say something, and again, it reminds you of an incident that's happened. It also works when we just talk about oftentimes what we're used to is, we think about PTSD. Oftentimes people just think of nightmares and flashbacks. And so when a person has a flashback, again, like, that there oftentimes isn't just a trigger that happens. It just sometimes can just come on. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is when any of those things happen and a person suddenly um, has a trauma response. One of the things I do want to point out first is that a trauma response isn't just, again, a nightmare or a flashback. And I just recently bring this up in our most recent domestic violence video as well. It is a full physiological body response, okay, that you can feel from your head all the way down to your toes. People can start sweating. They can start shaking. All of a sudden they have a stomach ache, their heart starts to pound. So very similar again to a panic attack, but oftentimes what it also is similar to is whatever physical response you may have had to the event that to the traumatic event. Oftentimes it brings you right back to that moment, and that's the response you have, kind of that fight or flight response that person can have. So the 5-4-3-2-1 is oftentimes a grounding technique that you can utilize in that situation. And the reason why it is important is because it brings you back to the present. When we have those moments of all of a sudden having that visceral panic reaction to trauma, to a trigger that is, again, bringing us back to that trauma, again, our entire body feels like it's back in that situation again. And it can't discern between the present and the past. And that's really what's happening. And you want to try, if you can, to do any kind of grounding technique. And if in that moment the only grounding technique you can do is, being able to sit with your feet flat on the ground and try to do some deep breathing, that's fine. You do whatever works for you in that moment. And again, the 5-4-3-2-1, which is the 5 things I can see, 4 things I can hear, 3 things I can touch, 2 things I can taste, 1 thing I can smell, and um, you know, again, one of the reasons why that can be a very important technique to bring you to the present is because what it does is it doesn't just ground you to the present moment, but it reminds your body and your mind that all of those things that you are now going through in your mind, 5-4-3-2-1, they weren't present during the traumatic incident that you either were present for, or that you fully experienced yourself, or yet that you witnessed. So that's why that's one of the most important grounding techniques to try, because you're just trying to bring your entire body, your entire physical being back to the present. And the more that you do that, the more you're starting to almost trick your body into reminding itself that, again, it's safe, reminding it that it is okay, and that it is not still in the past. So every time you have that trauma response, to do a grounding technique, again, trying to put your feet flat on the ground, hands on your knees, You probably just all heard that I just smacked my hand. I have shorts on. It was a little loud over here. Um, and find a focal point if you can. I don't care what it is, something that's right in front of you, and start to do initially just some deep breathing from your abdomen. Breathe in through your nose, holding it for 5 and then breathing out through your mouth. You want to try to do the breath out slower because that's the breath that kind of really helps slow everything down, your heart rate and your breathing. And then when you feel ready, you try to do the 5. So again, 5 things that I can see in this moment. And again, part of that is saying that uh, these, generally speaking, we hope anyway that these things that I'm looking at right now were not things that were part of that traumatic event. So that's it for today. I just wanted to bring that up because, again, last time I brought up the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, I really did focus, I know, a lot on just managing anxiety and panic attacks and stress. But I really, really wanted to bring up today that it can also help with trauma responses. And again, if you can Google the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, and I promise you, so many different links pop right up there that are so easy that you can just put on your phone. You can keep it on your phone, just pop that right up, save it, and then, if you ever just need that right in front of you, just to look down and remind yourself, because even when I'm doing this, sometimes I forget. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are the 5 senses? For some reason, I sometimes blank out on 1 or 2 of them as I'm doing this in session. So sometimes I do that. I'll grab my phone and I'm like, I know I'm missing something. And so, I recommend just do the same thing for yourself. Just keep it on your phone. Again, it's a grounding technique. It brings you back to the present. It reminds you that you are not back in that situation anymore. You are safe and you have control over your present situation right now. That's it. Thanks so much.